Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wave Podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Rogue Matter, youtube.com/Rogue Matter, and facebook.com/Rogue Matter Podcasts. I'm your host.
Smooth, man. Real smooth.
This is as good as it gets. We figured out, by the way, before we get it, well, here's my wonderful co-host, Mr. Hassan Godwin, the Rogue Wire that was causing us the great dismay of the sound quality. If you were on the live stream the last 2 weeks,
the wire's rogue. You're saying
yes,
the wire went rogue.
The wire went rogue.
All right.
So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. That's what it was, though. We found it was a rogue wire plugged into the speaker. So it worked out. We have since swapped that out, and so we think we're going to have a really good time. How are you doing, Lord of the Live Stream, Mr. Hassan Godwin?
I don't answer questions. I don't do requests. Quit asking me questions.
I can only...
in fact, I'm leaving. I'm done.
That's it? You're done?
I'm done with this show.
That was too much right there.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, tune into the live stream right now. We're on facebook.com/Rogue Matter Podcasts. Let us know how we sound. I think we sound pretty good. And if not, you'll catch us on the replay where my masterful editing job will cover up any discrepancies we might have had. Indeed. So we got a great show. And I mean that because...
We always say that, though. I mean,
we've got
that's
kind of like
the standard... Show. That's the standard comment about.
No, but we really do. We've got a lot of content. Content is great.
Right. Content is king.
Yeah, we've got a brand new MCU show to digest. It was actually out last Wednesday, but we wanted to give all of our viewers and listeners a chance to watch them all. So we'll do a rogue review of Hawkeye episodes 1 through 3. We'll keep it as spoiler-free as possible in case you did not get to see 3. We're going to talk about the show as a whole. So far, we're already halfway done with the show, which is kind of even funnier. Not our show. Our show is going to go on for a while. But Hawkeye's already halfway done.
Yes, yeah, because it's only 6, right? So
6 or 7, something like that. Yeah, some weird number.
Yeah, it takes longer to get less.
We're gonna bookend these things. We're gonna bookend these things, unless each episode is just monumental, in which case we have to review every episode. But we've got filmmaker Codey Wilson coming on later. He is doing a WeFunder campaign for his movie franchise. It's not even just a movie. It's a potential franchise. There Were Giants. And he's going to tell you why Hollywood is broken. So I'm pretty excited about that. But first...
Excited about why Hollywood is broken.
Well, I mean, who wouldn't want to know why Hollywood is broken, right? I mean,
I'm excited to hear why Hollywood is broken. Especially not us saying it. It's coming from experts,
Absolutely.
We got 100 reasons why we think it's broken. Good to hear on the inside why it actually is broken.
But first, we're going to talk about new Spider-Man movies. Lots of Spider-Man movies. Oh, Hollywood is totally alive and kicking and wonderful.
Wow. You seem really excited about that.
I was, I couldn't think of a good way to somehow segue in.
That's the problem. You're constantly trying to act. Just come on. There's no pro way. Like really excited about it.
No. What I was excited about was somehow tying my last statement that Hollywood is broken into the fact that we're now getting not one but two, not one, not two, but 3 new Spider-Man.
What do you think of the Spider before we go into anything?
Yeah.
Does it work for you? What does it do for you?
I'll say this. I think the 2000s in comics, which is where the Iron Spider suit comes from, is actually a pretty underrated decade in comics. We came from the glory years. You came from the glory years of like the 80s into the 90s. I was a little too young to appreciate 80s comics until a couple of years later when I could backtrack and get into it. So I would say I'm more of a 90s guy. And I remember when we worked at Wizard together in the 2000s, I think we kept kind of looking at it going, man, these comics are just not as good as when we were kids. But now, given the distance and also the state of comics today, which I'm not going to say are better or worse, just different than in the heyday of comics, just because technology has changed.
Wow,
2000s were pretty good. And so,
I just asked about the suit. Just tell me about the suit.
Yeah. I'm building to it. Look, my mom was not happy with your attitude last week. I got to tell you, she was very. She said Hassan has got to let you speak. That was my mom.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
All right, okay. So the attitude, I don't let you speak.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. Right, that's the consensus. Gotcha. While you just took 9 minutes to answer the word question of do you like the Iron Spider or not? That's all. I still don't know the answer to the question.
I don't know.
You don't. All right. Okay,
what I do know is that your sound is once again not good. I don't know why. I don't know what we can do to fix it.
Yeah, me neither.
But it's not good.
Okay.
So we're gonna keep playing with it. Can you talk now? Talk real quick.
I don't know what to tell you when I'm talking. If you ask me to talk, I'm gonna talk. See if it works.
Now I don't sound good. Let's see if we get you in here. Good. Do it again.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
No, that Rogue Wire still killing us. I don't know what's going on with that. It's very annoying.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna be back. Give us a second. We're gonna see what we can do about getting back, but because what else can we do here?
Right.
Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. Hopefully Hassan is not shouting into the ethers anymore, and hopefully it works. Hassan, what do you think?
I don't know. What do I think? Tell me what I think. What do you think I think? That's what I want to know. That's the important part of it. What do you think I think?
You're echoey.
Okay.
You're definitely echoey.
I'll turn my mic down and see if that works. How's that?
Let's find out.
Is that better?
That was better.
Okay.
You're a little clicky, but I mean, I'll take it, right? And,
Yep.
Better than nothing. So, the live stream fun. All right, so new Spider-Man movies coming out. Very exciting. Amy Pascal has basically gone on record as saying that Tom Holland will be back for 3 new Spider-Man movies, which is exciting, right? I mean, it's definitely something, it's definitely something that fans have been asking for. Fans have wanted. They've wanted more Tom Holland. And it seemed like for a little while he was kind of being a little sketchy on the matter, but he has since commented on reports that suggest the new trilogy is in the works. He said, "Listen, all I'll say is we have some very, very exciting things to be talking about. I don't know what those things are or what they will transpire to mean, but it looks like an incredibly bright future ahead. And as I've said before, Spider-Man will live forever in me." So
he didn't say anything, really.
No, he didn't. He didn't really do too much.
All right. Awesome. Excellent.
He did kind of confirm that things are in the works because there's no official announcement. What Tom Holland is able to do is to kind of dance around things very well. Like, I mean, I think he's learned how to do that. I think he's learned how to kind of, what's the word? Be very subtle in things that he gives away. I think just having kind of grown up in the MCU, although I think he was like 21 when he first started, so he was suitably grown. He's learned the art of not saying anything, but saying enough that kind of gives you a hint of things, but without, you can never pin it on him that he said anything definitively.
Okay. I guess so. After all that you said, yeah, he's managed to not say things with everything that he says.
It's true, though. It's true, and that's a good thing, right? Like, that's kind of...
Still don't know how you feel about the Iron Spider.
So this is what I feel about the Iron Spider. I actually feel like the costume itself has kind of grown on me because the era that we grew up in, at first I was very opposed to it, but given enough time, I'm kind of like, no, I kind of like it now. Kind of warmed up to it a little bit. I feel like it's actually more closer to canon.
Can't you just say I like it or don't like it?
No,
like,
because then we'd have a 3-minute show.
But there might be some more stuff I want to say on it, and you're killing the whole segment.
Oh, I got you. Oh, okay.
Never mind.
You want to talk, but you're already going echoey, so we can't.
Never mind.
Talk.
Never mind then. Go ahead. Keep going.
I'm done. I like it.
Oh my God. All right. Never mind. Never mind. I don't know.
What do you think about it?
They keep pushing it like it's like, they can't, they keep vacillating between the actual costume and the Iron costume. They can't like really decide whether they want to go full tilt into that being the Spider-Man costume or not. So I just wondered what other people were thinking, and since you are one of the other people, I wanted to know exactly what you thought of it. That's all.
Well, it's very nice of you, actually. I appreciate.
I know. I mean, like when I was finally able to get an answer, that felt really good, as a matter of fact. But
I try to please. I try to.
You try not to answer any questions.
I try not. Yes, I try not to answer as much.
Even though your mom says like I interrupt you all the time.
Well, she was your attitude last week. She was very upset with it. She says.
Oh, really? All right. Oh. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Or she's not going to invite me for dinner anymore.
Here's the funny thing about the new Spider-Man news, if it is indeed true, and I think it is, because it's not as if this is like just some YouTuber that's giving speculation about, signing, Tom Holland or whatever the case might be. This is coming from the head of Sony, and right now she's still the head of Sony, so you got to imagine she's still going to be there. Marvel needs this. Like, they need this. They don't have any of their big guns. And Eternals kind of showed us that, the response to an unknown superhero is not going to be as lucrative nor as critically received as Spider-Man. They need Tom Holland for 3 more Spider-Mans. They do. They just absolutely do. I don't think there's any other way to go around that.
I don't know where that comes from, though. I mean, sure, the Spider-Man franchise is very lucrative. That's great. I don't know if Marvel needs it. I mean, it's another flagship, but I don't know if they need it like to bail them out, like the way people are making it sound.
Well, I mean, I would sit there and tell you that they definitely. Eternals hasn't done as well. Shang-Chi did very well. I mean, I guess there is evidence that there is life after, superhero-dom, in terms of the big three and things like that. But I would sit there and tell you, nothing seems to get people more excited than having the characters that they grew up with that they know. Like, they know Spider-Man, they know Captain America, they know Iron Man.
Yeah, but I mean, how many Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, Batman, Superman movies can you make? I mean, we're running into that problem with the DCEU, or whatever the DC is calling themselves now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're on our, fifth Batman, right?
Yep.
So, after a while, not only are we on our fifth Batman, we're on our third Spider-Man already.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, how can you keep that up? How is that not going to commit to ever diminishing returns eventually?
Yeah. No, I agree. All right, when we come back, we're going to tackle the new Hawkeye. I think it's more Home Alone than Die Hard, and I have a feeling I'm going to be the one talking the most because we still can't figure out your microphone issue. It's really it's very upsetting to me in general because then I have to do a lot more editing after the show is over. I never want to do that. I never want to do more work. But we'll fight through it as we normally do when we come back. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. Hawkeye. It's going to be a very short review because it's only 3 episodes out. Got to tell you, I walked into Hawkeye, episodes 1 through 3, and we're going to try to be spoiler-free here. I'm not going to go too deep into details so that if you haven't seen episode 3 yet. If you haven't seen episode 3, I want to keep it as nice as possible. The initial reaction that I had to the first 2 episodes, and it gets better. It definitely gets better by the time episode 3 comes around. Was based on the trailers, based on everything that I had seen walking into this. I was, the Christmas themed Marvel show. I was actually expecting a real Die Hard kind of experience. What I've walked out of the first 2 episodes, and by walking out, what's that?
Because Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
Well, it's themed. We won't have that debate. We've had that debate on the show before. We don't need to do it today. But I walked out of the room after watching the first 2 episodes, thinking to myself, it's not Die Hard anyway. It didn't give me the impression. And what I mean by that is the gravity of the situation. It felt more Home Alone. It felt like I'm watching Kevin McAllister thwart brainless idiots. And the reason I thought that is because, once again, the MCU continues to struggle with a villain problem. They have a legit villain problem. The tracksuit mafia is funny. There's a lot of funny moments. There's Clint Barton in in Central Park, doing the LARPing and all that stuff. But it just felt, again, more funny than serious. And I don't mean, again, serious movies can have humor, but it just felt like, for a character with such gravitas that is Hawkeye. And to introduce Haley Steinfeld into the mix as Kate Bishop, which I thought they did a nice job of, to not put them up against anybody with any kind of gravitas, to make the situation just one of those. Well, oh yeah, they don't sense any danger. Like Kate Bishop should be. This is the first time she's doing anything. She shouldn't feel like this is just ho hum. I'm going to just make it out with no issues. And I feel like that's a recurring problem, not just in the MCU, but in entertainment. Is that the writers are so meta with what they've already seen on TV or seen in movies that the characters don't react appropriately to the situation. I don't think that if you or I were in the kind of situations that Kate Bishop, who's a newbie, gets into, we would be as calm, cool, and collected. Unless, of course, you're fighting mobsters in tracksuits that don't seem to be very threatening. So that was my initial take on it. I thought it was more Home Alone than Die Hard. Episode 3, it turns around a little bit, so I'm kind of happy with that. Echo is introduced, and I think that's I think it's got promise, but it needs to not trip over itself.
I hear what you're saying. I think the Marvel situation, the trouble they run in, all the characters really enamored the fact that they are superheroes, and the theme of almost all of the superhero lifestyle, real life, and a lot of it, and approach that were over the last 10 years, or whatever. But however, it doesn't make room for villains. Yeah. Because they're taking him like you said, they're taking themselves really seriously. In the fashion of trying to fit in real life superhero, even Hawkeye's trying to get close, still being a superhero. And villains are very cartoony. Like the concept of it, taking all be done correctly, but the concept of them are absurd, and you have to really lean into them. Just like why Molina was really good. Spider-Man, because they as absurd as Doctor Octopus was, really leaned into it. Yeah, and they made it. They found a way to work it. They didn't try to water it down in order to make it for real life. They leaned into it. This was a modern day comic book, and we were going to utilize all the resources, special effects, and budgetary make Doctor Octopus. And so it's very hard to be meta. And real and come up with a grand meta universe, right? Because everybody around everybody everything is how weird let it actually concern themselves or whatever. And if they don't sell the audience so we're not going to be worried.
Right. I agree 100%. So it sucks because we'd like to see one of these MCU shows. I think WandaVision has been the best so far. I think it set a high bar, but I'd like to see some of these MCU shows deliver the promise of what we've kind of seen in these trailers of micro movies, and the movies seem to work. The movies, have that right balance, but so far the TV shows, I don't know, a little bit less. So it got me thinking, and I love thinking because it's my favorite thing to do. Who are the top 5 MCU villains? Like if we had to actually, rank the villains that have come out before in these Marvel films, I think they really suffer. I think they suffer a lot from not being fully developed, not being developed well, and we don't really have a big, huge list. I think Thanos, is that unanimous number 1?
I would say yeah.
And would Loki be the unanimous number 2?
No.
Ooh, who's your number 2?
Not for me. Ronan.
Ronan is a great villain, except I kind of. I know, and I'm reacting to it. I'm gonna sit there and tell you, Ronan's a great villain, but not as memorable as some of the other villains that we've seen. At least to me. That's why I don't have him as high up on the list as you. That would be my explanation. I had Loki as number 2. I think Loki as a villain in Avengers was perfect. He was a perfect villain. Okay, so we were pretty close. Where do you have any of the Spider-Man villains?
There are Spider-Man villains. Spider-Man, Vulture,
Mysterio?
Mysterio wasn't even genuine villain.
He was.
He was a trickster. Not for the MCU.
Okay.
He doesn't he's a good Spider-Man. He's a Lord of Electro, and some of the other but he made it top five MCU list.
And what round out your list?
Loki was number 3.
Loki was number 3.
You go for 4.
Okay.
And Ultron number 5.
Ah.
But either between Ultron and Nebula.
Okay.
From the first Guardian, she was more of a villain.
Okay.
So those are my top 5 that I could think of. And I guess the honorary mention would be the Red Skull.
Yeah, I've got him.
The Red Skull is really like he's a mustache twirler, you know. So
He is, but he has a good presence on screen.
yeah, it works. I wouldn't have him in my top 5.
Right. No, that makes sense. I get it. All right. What do you guys think? Is that a suitable top 5 for you guys? What is your reaction to our reaction to Hawkeye? Let us know. Coming up next, we've got Codey Wilson, and we promise the sound is good for this one because we pre-recorded this earlier this afternoon. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. Happy to be joined by producer and filmmaker Codey Wilson. Codey, how you doing, sir?
Doing good, man. How are you guys doing?
We are as jovial as we normally are, which means Hassan's been very jovial today. I can't lie. You've had a lot of positivity in you.
He asks how you're doing. You just stick with you. Right?
I like speaking.
I said you guys.
Leave me out of it.
I like speaking for you. Very cool stuff. All right, so Codey, by day you produce commercials for Film Cry, a New York City-based production company, but by night you are working hard on your own indie film passion and career. Talk to us about what that career, what that path is, what you envision that path in your head to be.
What I envisioned it to be, as in past tense, or what I'm envisioning it to be now that I've been trying it for a while? Well, yeah, see, they're two different things, because starting out, you think it's going to be, I don't know, not this hard, but but now, oh gosh, man, now I think the biggest thing I'm having to learn to be is patient, because it certainly didn't happen on my time. So that's a bullet that I'm having to bite down on pretty hard, because it's just not happening as fast as I want it to. It could, if I wanted to go no budget, if I just wanted to do some kitchen sink dramas, and make a lot of sacrifices, which I probably should be doing. It would be going faster, but anytime you want a little bit of budget, it changes the dynamic of what you're trying to do completely. Just totally and completely. And I'm still not sure if it's the right thing to do, because I'm burning time. You know, I told you before I started, I got whites on my chin now. I mean, I thought I was going to be acting in these things 10 years ago. I don't know who cares about this like tired leather looking face anymore. So that I've got to change.
You're much prettier than both of us. Don't worry. You're in good shape. You're in good shape.
Oh,
it's funny you mentioned that though too, because I could tell you when I was in college, I had no plan after 30. I had a very, very detailed pre-30 plan as to where my comic book career was going to be, and you know what I'd be working on, and how it would go down, how, you know, at that point there'd be options for, you know, the two, you know, the character you see behind me, which is my own, and you know there'd be a movie at that point, and I by post 30, like I literally, it's one of those when they have like the future apocalypse visions and there's just nothing past a certain time, like that was in my head. I'm like, I don't even know, I'll be retired by 30 or something, you know, we'll figure it, you know, I'll be set.
Yeah.
So I definitely, I can feel you. I think Hassan is nodding as well. Hassan, has that gone through your head at all, like in terms of your long-term plan?
I never had a plan.
Oh, okay.
I made sure not to plan. So that's why I'm keeping my mouth shut. You know, I'm admiring the plan. After we're done with this interview, I'm going to ask you guys about making plans. So
okay.
I haven't even started yet. So
I'm
just taking notes.
I'll plan
right
to talk to you about plans, but no,
right.
that's a big thing. It's a big thing to realize that, boy, you know, like I said, the grays in the beard and things like that. That the time is burning. It's getting late early is the phrase that I like to think about. But what is your film exactly that you're looking for, that your baby that you're unwilling to make the sacrifices for right now? What's it about? And
so the one that's on WeFunder that you know about, it's actually a film universe called There Were Giants. And the reason it's a universe is because it has evolved with me. When I first started, I was like, this will be a cool short film, and then people bid on it like crazy. I was like, oh, I guess this will be a cool indie film. And then I started to meet, like at Austin Film Festival, I think I met a few writers and stuff, and they were like, "Oh, this is a show." And I was like, "Oh, I guess I'm a show writer now." So it kept growing with me, and that's been a catch-22 that's bittersweet, because I'm kind of like locked and loaded with this little universe and all this cool stuff, but nothing has been made yet. Right. And yeah, I think you get it. You know, it sucks not having that finished product and to keep starting over and preparing for something new. But that said, now the campaign looks really like it's almost suspicious. I've had some investors call and they're like, why do I see outlines for like 3 movies in a show in this pitch deck? And I'm like, oh, because I could send it to you. And they're like, whoa, really? And yeah, so I if I could go back, I would have just made the first thing and taken people's compliments and been like, awesome, thank you so much. We're just focused on this one project right now. And I wouldn't have changed course, because the bigger the vision gets, the bigger that budget gets, which means now you're asking for money, which means more time in between you and making that finished product.
Yeah.
And the more finished products, you know, back in the day, whatever you want to call it, it was make your short film, get discovered. And then it kind of became, all right, you're probably going to have to make that first low budget, no budget indie by yourself, get discovered. Now it's probably, hey, let me see your 2 or 3, you know, indie films so that we can consider paying you for this $3 million movie. Maybe.
Yeah. So the times they have changed a bit. I want to ask about that. But first I want to dive into WeFunder real quick. Now, is WeFunder, because we're Kickstarter people, like we've done Kickstarter, and I've even done an Indiegogo campaign, and there's differences. Kickstarter is you don't get funded unless you reach your goal within a certain amount of time. Is WeFunder like that, or is it something that where you can continually just kind of grow and build with it? Right.
Not because I wanted to be able to, but I could probably teach a class on WeFunder at this point because of all the hoops they make. Yeah, there's so much you have to learn how to do. Again, it's another catch-22 that's bittersweet, because I don't want to do all this stuff. But now that I've done it, I'm glad it's there. Yeah. I've got the LLCs ready to go, bank cards all over my desk. I've got all these things. Like you have to show that your business is that it's not like Kickstarter where you can just go, please look at me, I'm pretty, and donate. Sure. You know, not to mock someone else's campaign, but you know, a lot of people on Kickstarter got away with stuff in the past when they weren't ready to go. There are some horror stories with film projects. I mean, how many Power Rangers fan films did you see on Kickstarter 10 years ago when it came out that got a lot of money, and then you never saw the finished product?
Right.
So yeah, WeFunder, but simply put, to answer your question, WeFunder is for investing. Kickstarter and all that stuff is donations. WeFunder is for investing. You're not donating to me, you're investing. You're betting on me or whatever project you're looking at as something that's going to make you money. Now, people still show up. I have not talked to, we're up to 78,000 now. I haven't talked to one person who actually cares about the money yet. They're all still believers, the same way people show up on Kickstarter. Like, I don't know with you and the projects you've funded or been funded, but I never really ask questions. I never ask where my t-shirt is when I back somebody on Kickstarter. I just do it because I want to.
Right.
You know, it seems to be the same so far with this, but there are some bigger investors who come to the table and they actually do want to know the terms, and you have to set those terms. And without going into a long, boring rant, you know, there's like, I have a revenue share loan. So without going into details, we can, if you want, but people can figure out what that means. Like if you invest, you're sharing in the proceeds, like in the profits and the proceeds. Got it.
Okay. I'm looking at the WeFunder campaign right now. Talk to us, give us the log line for There Were Giants. It's got a very cool premise. And I think you should let people know about it. Yeah. Well, I guess if There Were Giants had its own log line, it's that it's a franchisable film and TV universe featuring the Nephilim of Genesis. Because like I mentioned earlier, I made more than one project. There was a show, there was like this thing I made up called a hybrid anthology series, where some shows have done this, where they kind of do every few episodes, they'll do this like unrelated episode without any of the main cast, but it's in the same universe. Mythic Quest started doing it, and I love when they do it. So I haven't invented the model myself, but that's how I wrote the show. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a snowball business plan, you know, where it's like an indie film, larger indie film, and then the show sale or another legitimate film. But it's all based around the concept of the Nephilim of Genesis, which, do you want me to just dive into that? Oh yeah, please.
So I told you I was raised in a Christian town, right? And I was on my second deployment in Iraq, and we were outside of some temple, and a friend mentioned this word to me, you know, and he was like, yeah, the Nephilim. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, it's in the Bible. I said, no, it's not, man. And he, you know, we argue, and I'm like, dude, I went to a Christian school. It's not there. They would have told me about it. Well, sure enough, he, you know, yeah, exactly. He shows it to me, and he's like, it's right there, man. Deviant angels, banged women, Nephilim, hybrid offspring. And now I'm like, whoa, there's sci-fi stuff in the Bible that I didn't even know about. And what's been fun about this is this really is kind of this untapped community. Like if you scroll down on that page, you'll see one of my first slides is
that's the one that caught my eye.
The which of these have you not seen a franchise for slide? Yeah. We've been bludgeoned with vampire and werewolf movies. I can't think of a Nephilim movie that I've seen. Some people have done it. Some people have integrated it. I certainly can't think of anybody who's done it in a way that I remember or care about. There's no Underworld series for the Nephilim, but maybe this could be it. I don't know. You know, we are going to start from humble beginnings though, because I do want some creative control over it. But yeah, to continue in a long-winded form answering your question about what it is.
It's a podcast. There's no such thing as long-winded. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's turned out to be a really cool vehicle. Because when something is familiar but also untapped, you can kind of do whatever you want with it. Yeah. Like you don't get to break the rules with vampire or werewolf. And if you do, then that's what you're doing. You're either A or B, black or white. You're either doing it the way you're supposed to do it or you're not, and you are pretending you're clever for that. We kind of get to do whatever we want. It can be X-Men, it can be prisoners, you know, it can be all kinds of stuff. It can be Vikings, it can be, you know, City of Atlantis, you know, so it's really fun. And I have had a few producers warn me, you know, they're like, hey man, there's too much of this out there. And I'm like, well, these are the times, because I'm trying to get it funded. You know, we've got to tell people some stuff. Yeah. But so old Hollywood producers are like, you should keep this quiet. I'm like, well, I don't know. You know, we got to get it made. And there is a huge underbelly. I mean, if you Google this, it's really fun to see the communities that come up. Like some people get really into this stuff, and that's a lot of fun.
And that's actually a very powerful proof of concept for you, in a way, to have this, to be able to show to investors that there is this community support, that there is this following, which is so big right now. And it's a great segue into the question I wanted to ask as well. And you started to allude to it. The way Hollywood operates now and how much harder it is to get noticed. We've talked about this on the show many times, just in passing. A lot of people celebrate the fall of the gatekeepers. Yeah, the gatekeepers are gone. You can just go to YouTube and you can become a hit, or you can go to Instagram and you can just become a hit. But I actually feel, unless you're getting in on it early, I mean, even this podcast started in January 2016, and that was still, podcasts were not a common thing. So there was, it was like, great, I'm standing out, I have a podcast. Within a year, I mean, everyone had a podcast. It was one of those things where all of a sudden we weren't unique anymore. And what we were doing wasn't unique because there's 50 million people doing it, and maybe doing it better than us or different than us. Talk to us. No, they're not. Yes, I agree, Hassan. I'm just trying to throw a bone out there for our competition to let them know that.
Understood.
They're not good.
Please continue. Please.
But seriously, so I feel like the fall of the gatekeepers has made it more difficult. Is that something you agree with in terms of filmmaking now?
Yes. It was, I mean, it's just a different time. We just traded one obstacle for another, basically. I think you mentioned how I said in some of our initial talks, how I said the phrase, I learned it from my stepdad, technology is the great equalizer. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I hope I don't piss off your audience here. I'm going to use this in an analogy that's going to burn, and I direct everyone's anger towards me.
Don't worry, no one gets angry. They only get angry at Hassan.
About to lose your female audience. Instagram comes out, 2010 or something? It doesn't matter. And there were a few standout girls on there. Paige Hathaway comes to mind. Do you remember that name? Did you ever see Paige Hathaway? Okay, Paige was one of the first fit, hot Instagram girls. And because Instagram's new, her followers just kaboom, just millions, up into the millions. Thankfully, I'm married now, but and I guess this goes for guys too, because there's plenty of dudes out there who post, but how many Paige Hathaways are there now on Instagram? How many people, and I'm not just going to say girls, let's get politically safe here and say how many people are putting it all out there. And I'm talking about back in the day, it was just bikinis and stuff. But this probably sounds like it makes no sense, but I am going to connect it. How many people are just putting it all out there now for some likes? Yep. So much to the point where I know for myself, I can't stand seeing like bikini pics or nudity stuff because I'm trying to see something funny or like a comic book thing or hints that Andrew Garfield is in the new Spider-Man. Like I'm trying to get it out of my face because I care so little about it. I scroll past it. And it's because I latched onto this phrase a few years ago called rare and valuable. And it's to me, Codey Wilson, don't want you guys to get in trouble. It seems like this timeless law that if something is not rare and valuable, then it's just not rare and valuable. So now we come back to the technology is the great equalizer thing. Sorry for the boring masterclass. If everyone's doing something, is it rare and valuable?
Right. I agree with that.
Part of the reason I dove into the Instagram model is because it's just one of those ways you can kind of feel it. You're like, oh yeah, I guess I really don't care anymore. Like I don't care. And it's really hard when you're the person who's been trying to make a movie or make music or something. It's a big deal because you still have to fight as hard to make that thing the same way people did 5, 10, 15 years ago. And it doesn't matter as much now because it's not rare and valuable anymore.
Correct.
That's depressing, and I'm still looking for the answer, but that is kind of pinned up on my mental wall. Like, is it rare and valuable?
Hassan, you're shaking your head. You had a come to Jesus moment there.
No, I mean it's exactly the same thing we were talking about just before we started the interview about like what's the purpose of most of the 90% of the stuff that we see on a regular basis on social media is not even activity. It's people commenting on activity. You know, it's people making their bones on on other people's art or other people's music. So it's like the the airways are flooded with people talking about something, but not a lot of people doing something.
Right.
But it's so crowded with the people who are just speculating or just talking about things that, it's got to be harder to get noticed, or people are writing your career the minute you've done anything exceptional. It's like, yeah, but will they be able to do another one like this? Or is this a shot in the dark, or did they just get lucky? And before you even got a chance to, find your footing and figure out what you're doing artistically, someone's already written your career and written you off as as over. So I completely agree. And that's the most I'm going to say.
No, I think first of all, no, it's not. We're going to get you fired up about something before this is over.
Good luck. He's been trying for 5 years.
So. Well, I think what's interesting though is, and we talk about this all the time, in terms of there is so much content out there now too. And I'll use my Apple Music analogy. I don't want to subscribe to Apple Music, even though I love music. I love discovering music, and I love learning about bands that I don't know about, or catching up on albums that I haven't picked up. And from a monetary standpoint, it would make so much sense to just sign up for Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. But I still buy records individually, because to me that is an actual, I am making a mental and commercial investment in this. Versus if I had Apple Music, if I have everything, I have nothing, right? We had one of those free trials for a month, and my wife is like, you can listen to whatever you want, and I'm like, great. I have no idea what I want to listen to, and there's just too much stuff here.
Too many choices.
I look at Netflix, and if I have an hour to myself finally, and we talked about the kids thing, so you'll get your hour at the end of the day when you're mentally brain dead to go and peruse and watch, and it's great. I spent more time just looking at all the things that I'd like to watch than actually watching any of them. Walking Dead, I haven't caught up on that in a few years. I'll add that to my list. I spent more time adding things to my list than actually sitting down and watching it, because there's just so much. It's like what really stands out. We talked about Hawkeye before. It's a good MCU show. It's part of the MCU, so we want to watch it. But at the end of the day, are we really moved by it? Are they really making anything that is substantial? To whereas when we were kids reading comics, everything we read, month in and month out was life or death, because we weren't bombarded by this stuff. When we were younger.
You could say those comics were rare and valuable.
Oh, absolutely. The storytelling were. It was everything about, it was special. We talked about Kickstarter. I've backed a bunch of Kickstarters. A lot of them turn out, and I've said this to previous guests, I end up getting them in the mail, and they're not very good. They're just not. And I'm happy I supported the artist. I'm happy I supported the writer, but then part of me gets a little resentful to be like, this guy just made $20,000 on a comic book that sucks. And so anyway, yes, I could go on and rant and go into this.
Well, if I could build on that, maybe take some moments to say here, I might have entertained you before we talked when I said Hollywood is breaking. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the reasons why, among many, many others, especially with gatekeepers, as you've mentioned. But you said you buy records. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you buy records because you love music.
Yes.
X amount of years ago, people went to movies because that was it. That's what you could do on the weekends. You could go to the movies and then go the 50s show, go park up on the cliff and make out with somebody overlooking the city in every movie there for a while. But now it's different. This is obvious. But I don't need your movies to entertain me anymore. Right. I've got PlayStation games with dust clouds on them. I've got there's so much stuff that I could do to entertain myself. I don't need your movie anymore. And I have to keep in mind, people don't need my movie anymore. And this is one of the reasons Hollywood is breaking, is because all these gatekeepers want those big checks, and they're just not going to get them anymore. And that's why things are about to get really interesting. You're seeing A24 making these horror films for $3 to $6 to $8 million because they know they need a profit margin. Mm-hmm. The mid-budget movie has disappeared completely. Yeah. I think Ridley Scott's movie came out last week. I don't know if you saw this, but he was complaining. He's like, "Oh, these kids and their cell phones or whatever."
Oh, we did. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This dude's mad because his $100 million movie, I think, hasn't cracked 15 million yet or something. I could be wrong, but it's close. It doesn't
It's
matter.
low. Whatever it is very low.
Whatever
Yes.
it is, it's bad. Here's another good one. Blade
Oh
Runner,
wait, before you go into that,
go ahead.
the funny thing about Ridley Scott saying that too, and we talked about this with our guest last week actually, was the fact that for the first time ever, he wasn't actually complaining about the studio either. Usually it's, the studio didn't promote it, or I was promised things and I didn't get it and we didn't get it. He was raving about everyone involved except the audience that didn't respond to the movie.
But dude, Hollywood's always kind of been out of touch. Which is so interesting, because I was one of the people like ready on opening night for Blade Runner 2049. That was an $80 million loss or more, that movie. It's awesome. It got Denis Villeneuve the Dune job because they know he's good. They knew it was good, but they lost like 80 million. That's crazy. And they never should have spent that. I mean, I'm glad they did, selfishly, but I don't think they want to lose that type of, so they've always kind of been out of touch, and they're going to complain about this stuff, but like, we are not smarter than they are capable of being. I just think they don't want to, I think Hollywood doesn't want to lose the old model, and they're stubbornly hanging on. And it's just kind of like people bucketing water out of a sinking ship. So
where does that leave you with your film?
All that. Yeah. And now let's talk about you.
I think my hypothesis is that we creative types are going to have to make stuff at modest costs. This also sounds arrogant because I haven't done anything this good yet, but it means people are going to have to actually put some work in now. You're not going to get to just hire Bruce Willis and put a gun in his hand on the poster and make millions of dollars anymore off of his legacy. You better make a good movie. I mentioned A24. You better just be trying to do something. You don't just get to show up and press record anymore. And go watch a 90s movie or an early 2000s movie. As much as I love my generation and my millennials and my people, this stuff is painful to watch. It's hard. Like a lot of the movies that came out, I mean, I don't know how the actors did it, to be honest, because they're so inhuman, the characters that they were playing, who don't say things that real people say, who don't do things that real people do. And I think we're just gonna, so like for me, I budgeted this thing tooth and nail, like hardcore with marketing. I might knock it down so that we can have a successful campaign and just get going on the movie. But my final budget is $249,000. Well, 60 of that is for marketing in case we need to just sell it ourselves with Facebook and Instagram marketing on like iTunes or whatever, Apple TV. I guess they got rid of iTunes, but like if we have to do it ourselves, and that might be the future. That might be the way we have to go to get our investors and ourselves enough profit margin to get us to the next project. And that factors in all the stuff that I've been ranting about. Like, is it rare and valuable? Are people actually watching it? Are they playing Fortnite tonight instead? Are they watching Hawkeye instead? I mean, you just have to increase your odds, or else my wife will leave me or something. I don't know. Like, I don't want to, like it was one thing to be a starving artist before. It's even more intense now. But the writing is on the wall. We can be smart about it. I kind of brought my A game with my pitch video. My friends pick on me and say it's the most overproduced pitch video they've seen. And it is. And it took too long. It took years to get this ready. But I just figured that's what it takes at this point. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, you brought a very thoughtful and insightful argument to our show, which means we're completely off brand now. Give everybody out there where they can help you, and what's the web address that they can find There Were Giants, and where can they find you on social media?
Yeah. My social media handles are just Codey, CODEYWI. It's like I got my shirt pulled over my head and my profile photos. And the project is on WeFunder.com/There Were Giants. And that's where you can see all that.
Very cool. Codey Wilson, thank you so much. When we come back, we'll put a bow on tonight's episode. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. I want to thank Codey Wilson for dropping by, dropping some knowledge on WeFunder, filmmaking, and overall just a really nice guy, and had a lot of fun with him. So
yeah, pretty awesome.
Good to have him on. And We talked Hawkeye. Next week, we've got Victoria Sherry Bennett, friend of the show. She's got new podcasts coming out through the Nacelle Company, which is Brian Volkweis, the Toys That Made Us. So now she's gonna be a big star. So we got to get her. We got to get her right before her star takes off, so that she'll remember us and take us with her. And take us with her. Take us with you.
I bet that I don't know about that last part, but okay. Yeah.
We'll make something happen there.
No one ever makes room on the train when the train's pulling out of the station. So,
no,
but no, it never happens. But more power to her, though. Absolutely.
Absolutely. We will see you guys next week. Rogue Wave. Hi guys, Mike Dolce here from the Rogue Wave podcast. If you like this video, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps us out. Leave a comment, let us know what you'd like to see in future episodes, and tune in every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, for a brand new episode of the Rogue Wave podcast.